Hello everybody. So I'm going to be critiquing your cross contour projects. There were 2 parts. I added a second part with the ginger root characters. But I'm going to start with the first part, which is the blobs, just the regular ginger blobs, and then the lobster, and some of you also chose some of your own animals and creatures and stuff. So I'm going to go through those, and then I'll move on to ginger root characters. All right, Dave Lord, your ginger blobs look really nice. They have a lot of form, clearly 3-dimensional. So really nice job with these. I especially like this one. This feels really blobby and just feels super round. So, and that's exactly what you want, the effect you want from these. So good job. Oh yeah, and these too. These are really nice and blobby. Then you also did some animals, and mostly they look pretty good. I think you could be a little bit cleaner with your line quality, but these first 3 look accurate. They're a little messy, but this flamingo I think is a little bit inaccurate. And let me show you. So because we're seeing the neck over here like that, we know that the blob is facing us, and we're seeing the side plane here and the top plane here, like that. And so these cross contour lines that you have going pretty much almost straight up and down, you gave them a kind of a curve with the center being right there, as if we're looking directly side view at this flamingo, but we're not, you know, based on how the neck is attaching, based on how we're seeing this leg here and the other leg farther to the left. All of that tells us that this flamingo's turned kind of 3/4 towards us. And so instead of straight up and down for these vertical lines, we need to show this roundness like that, and that'll feel much more like the flamingo is going 3/4 view. Another thing that I really want you to keep in mind is like this thing that you're doing right here with the cross contours on the legs. Notice how you have these gaps on the edges. You're doing that kind of that lazy cross contour where you have your blobby form, and then you're just kind of adding these little dashes, and that doesn't do much, because remember, most of the curvature is in the edge. So you have to show as much as you can of that edge, and that is really, really powerful, is that extra curve on the sides. In fact, you get more of the effect if you show the edges and you don't show the inside. That feels more 3-dimensional than if you show just that straight part in the middle. All right, Dennis, let's see what you got. So same thing here. I would continue working on your line quality. It's a little bit too scratchy. I mean, it looks like you have some preliminary lighter lines, which is great, but then you went over it with these darker lines, and they're not much cleaner. They still look kind of scratchy and not very attractive lines. So keep working on those. And then as far as your cross contours, you have a very similar thing that I just mentioned, is that, you know, look at this one in here. You didn't really complete it. You didn't show the roundness going all the way or curving over the top of the back and under the belly. You're just showing a straight line here, and that actually just flattens. It would have been better to not put that line at all, because you're showing the opposite of what is actually happening there. It's not flat, it's round. So putting a straight line there, opposite effect. This one's better, but it should be even more curvy down here on the belly. This plane is very flat. It's supposed to be very flat, but you're showing it going straight into the wall. Just bam, right, kind of, you got like T cross section there. A little better here. That's good. Some of these other ones are better, but still, you have to feel it curving over the edge and back around. Otherwise, it just looks flatter than it should be. Much better on this one. Like, look at how much rounder the body or the tail of this lobster looks, because you're curving it into the edge. So much more depth happening right here in this tail. So great job. Yeah, and this one is better as well, but occasionally still you got that, some of those lines that are incomplete or not curving around. For a lot of you guys, let's just keep working on that. If you're doing cross contours, focus more on the edges than on the center. So Anderson has a question here. How do you properly telegraph perspective shifting for parallel faces versus faces changing orientations? Okay, what? Hold on. Oh, I see. So you're saying the faces are parallel, but they're moving away from the viewer, so we're looking down at a face more, versus faces actually changing orientations. Okay, I think I understand what you're saying here. So one, in the first example, they're all parallel, but they're going away. In the second one, they're not parallel, they're actually turning away from each other. So the answer to that, the way I think of it is, it doesn't really matter, because all that really matters in the end is how that plane is facing the viewer. If they're parallel and they're going away, you got to decide how much is it going away, and that's determined by all of the perspective in your scene. And then if they're turning away from each other, they're also turning away or towards the viewer, and it's all about the context. Like, faces will appear parallel if they're all going towards the same vanishing point as the rest of the environment suggests where the vanishing points would be. But if they're going a little bit too much to where the vanishing point with everything else is not that close, then it will feel like it's actually turning. And so it's all about the context and how it feels. And so in the end, all of this intuitive stuff, and does it feel parallel or does it feel like it's turning? That's all that really matters. And then Rachel, with the funny profile picture, has a really great diagram here. And so in this example, the sea lion has unparalleled planes because the body is kind of like turning back and forth, and so the planes are moving left and right and up and down, and they're shifting all over the place, and they're coming up higher towards our viewpoint or towards the horizon, so they're getting overall skinnier. And then Melanie also did a really good drawing showing this. You can see down here very rounded cross contours where the angles are turning in various ways, but as they go up, they generally are flattening out towards the horizon. So great question, Anderson. As far as your drawings go, I think they look great, actually. Like, very three-dimensional on these. Those are, pretty simple, but in here you got, more boxy cross contours of like your own little worm-like thing, and like a jellyfish or something. Yeah, generally great. Like, they feel three-dimensional. So if you're coming up with your own character and you need to figure out the forms and the mass of your character or whatever it is that you're drawing, I think you'll probably do a really good job at it, and it'll help you figure out what it is you're drawing. So obviously you're able to imagine the forms and wrap these rubber bands around them. So great job. Oh, Johannes, let's see. Johannes, did you change your profile picture? That's a cool little sock puppet or something. Look at those. Look at that. You're even going into the next section, adding those simple shadows in there. That's great. So I guess this is like a little foreshadowing for you guys. This is what we'll be doing in the shading sections. You can see how much more mass and volume and three-dimensionality you get once you combine these cross contours with a little bit of light direction. Just suddenly it's like, oh, it's in an environment. But yeah, dude, I got nothing for you. You clearly know what you're doing. These are really awesome. If I had to say something, I would say that I feel like your line weight could be better, especially on the lizard, because you have everything on the right here. They're really thick, but not everything. Like, this leg is a lot thinner. You have it really dark right here, dark and thick right in this area. And I'm not sure why. Like, it's not like that's the area that's like closest to us or the most important. And this whole area, this whole side is in shadow. So it just feels a little random that you have this as the darkest and heaviest part. And I wouldn't choose that to be. I would probably put more along the face or along some of the legs because they're a little more expressive. So I would just be a little bit more deliberate with your line weight. But it's not bad. It's just, that's the biggest room for improvement that I'm seeing here. And it has nothing to do with cross contour, but Brandon, predict what Stan may say. Good as always. Yeah, I did say that, didn't I? But I did give you some advice. Okay, I don't know how to say your name. Aljosha? I'll just call you Adam. So Adam, you're saying that you had a hard time trying to get these pointy, round, flat contours kind of right. And also digital is hard to get clean lines. Yeah, it's just different. With digital, it's just a different surface, different medium, and you just have to get used to it if you're new to it. But anytime you switch mediums, there's a little bit of a learning curve as you get comfortable with it. Once you get comfortable, it just becomes normal. But yeah, let's look at what you're talking about here. So taking a look at this, there's a few things that I'm seeing that you did wrong, but then a lot of things that you actually did right. For example, this flat parts on the top of the head, you're actually doing right. They're concave. They're like little dips with pointy parts. You know, like there's this whole part is like a little dip with a little curve over the little ridges, and they just keep going like that. And that's essentially what you did. The eyeball is, yeah, it's basically just these rounded, it's a sphere, right? And that's exactly what you did there. Now, you're pointing here and you're saying pointy parts. So I'm imagining you're talking just about these little needles. And those are a little bit too small to really be thinking about the cross contours of those little pointy parts. Those are like secondary or even tertiary forms on top of this larger form of the head or of the little jowl area down here. That's the part that I see you got the most wrong. And it's because you're curving them the wrong direction. So this whole head shape, if I just draw this shape, kind of roughly what I'm seeing, let's say you got, this is the eyeball, this little mouth. And so the front part is right there. And the rest of the bottom of the jaw is just going to continue the same curve. Like that. Right? And you have them going the opposite direction as if it's going away from us. But it's actually, his head is coming towards us. We can actually even show a little inward curve at that lip if we want to show a little bit of thickness of the lip. But generally, everything else looks pretty good to me. It's accurate. Just again, line quality could be better. All right, Conrado, looks like you're having a lot of fun doing these. And yeah, those are really creepy. This one got weird. Yes, they did. I think your little faces are not helping. And that little stinger on the butt, yeah, they just look like little leeches. They're gonna like suck my blood or something. They're funny, but yeah, definitely got weird. The cross contours of them look great though. Very accurate. Seems like not much to say, other than it's pretty weird. Gingers look great. This one especially looks really, really three-dimensional. I love how it feels like it's got an indent in the middle and then very round and bulbous on the ends. Even this little knot kind of bump thing on here looks really 3D. Yeah, great job feeling those forms. This one too, looks like you're a little more hesitant on these and you're just like kind of uptight on drawing these because they're like real animals. But you'll get the confidence to where your lines look a little bit more appealing in some of these more serious subject matters. But the cross contours look good. I got really not much to say here. You seem to be able to imagine them pretty well. So great job. Ooh, look at these lobster. This looks great. Let me look at this. Oh man, that ginger on the bottom right looks very round. That is great. Some very effective cross contour lines on that. Very, very nice. Same with this angry seal or sea lion. He's unpleased about something. This little shoulder, the way it feels a little stiff. I just watched Godzilla and it kind of reminds me of Godzilla's like a little walk where he can't move his arms. I don't know why, but it just feels like that shoulder is just like locked in there and he can't do anything with it. Actually, if I cover up the tail, it kind of looks like Godzilla. The head's a little too big for Godzilla, but... And the lobster looks great too. The only suggestion I have for you is that some of your cross contour lines, like on this claw down here, it just looks like it's going right into it instead of curving around it. So again, same issue. The thing is that these cross contour lines have so much curvature that you are getting a lot of just this middle part, but you would have gotten even more if you had curved this over this whole top of the claw instead of going right into the edge. Yeah, and same thing right over here. Although you're trying to suggest that this is sharp. And then down here, it's curving a little more, so that's round. If that's the case, then yeah, actually, I'll accept it. That looks pretty decent. It doesn't have to be round all the way. You could say, this is a sharp edge. And so if it's a sharp edge, that cross contour will come right at that point. So, okay, I'll take it. But then down here, that should be wrapping around because it's not sharp on the outsides. All right, Thomas says, it all made perfect sense when Stan demonstrated it, and it looked so easy, but somehow it doesn't work all that well in my attempts. Not sure why. I think it's because cross contours require you to be able to imagine the form before you draw the cross contour line. Because if you don't know the form, then you don't know how that line would wrap around the form. Or it's not that you don't know the form, it's just that you're maybe not imagining the form completely. But you're doing a decent job here. Like, your cross contour lines aren't wrong. Like this one, the ones on the pants, they're wrapping around correctly. They could be a little bit cleaner, and not cleaner like your line needs to be cleaner. I just mean like more confident in the way you put it down and wrapping around a little bit more. But I think that's going to take time for you to develop that mileage to train your shoulder and your arm to move in that way, and also just time to also just be able to imagine 3D form. If you're new to this, then just keep doing these exercises. Like, this ginger looks great. I actually don't see any issues with this ginger. This looks very bulbous, very three-dimensional. Zero errors on this ginger here. And then, let's see, the seal a little bit flat towards the middle. I would wrap those around a little bit more. And then the gesture of the seal is a little bit stiff, because I know that seal is kind of coming down and curving back, and it's got a lot of gesture, and you kind of just made it like a very straight, stiff blob. So, and then the lobster, yeah, you're having a bit of a hard time imagining the forms of the claws, but I feel like if you drew this a little bit larger and you kind of loosened up a little bit and you sketched the major forms first instead of trying to draw perfect outlines and then little lines representing cross contours on the inside, I think you might have better results. Actually, you know what? Get a red pencil, red or blue pencil, and start by lightly sketching in those big masses of things, and don't worry about getting them wrong first. You could slowly adjust. Go back to the sketching, the dynamics. What did I call it? Dynamic sketching? I think something like that. The sketching lesson where I showed you guys how to do the 3 different versions of sketching lines. Go back to that and practice that for this exercise. You don't have to redo the exercise from there, but all of these things apply and carry over. So I think that could help you. You're a little uptight in the way you're going around the outlines of these instead of thinking of large, simple forms, and then how those forms translate into larger 3-dimensional forms. I hope that makes sense. If not, I'm sorry for confusing you. Ricin, this looks great. Very 3-dimensional. Nice. Oh yeah, these are great. Wonderful. No critique. This is exactly what you should be doing. Keep doing it. You'll get even better at imagining these forms. Wonderful blobs. Yeah, really, really good. Yeah, that's a great example of like the level 1, just blobby forms, random blobs, but then making sure that those random blobs feel like 3D forms, where they're not just kind of like random lines, they're random 3D blobs. And all the cross contours are consistently telling the same story of what's happening to this 3-dimensional form. Great execution on that. All right, Brandon, let's see your little hammerhead shark. Okay, nice hammerhead. Pretty good ginger. The giraffe could use a little bit of work. Not sure why you went so heavy on so many cross contour lines in this area when most of them are so flat. You're indicating these to be mostly kind of flat. Just these 2 right here are showing like a little indent on here, but everything else could be just the outsides and then those guys. But yeah, I think with this one, it's just like the spacing seems a little strange. Like, why that one? And then only 1 on the leg, none on the legs here. It's like putting too much attention on here, but whatever. It's a study. Like, it's not like you're trying to make this presentable. And then right here you say, how complex should it be? Show muscle form? That depends on you. Now, based on the photo reference, you don't really have much detail to see there. So no, not really any kind of striations of the muscles or anything. The major form of the muscle, yeah, like the entire shoulder, if you simplify that to like one curve that represents that form, absolutely, you include the muscles. But I wouldn't try to be like anatomically accurate, just kind of like how you're handling the neck, right? The neck has muscles running down the neck, but you're not showing it. You're not showing those muscles there. You're just showing like it's a tube. It's a cylindrical tube. So for this specific case, I would say the way you simplify the body and the neck and the legs is great. Later on, if you're studying anatomy or you're doing a more detailed rendering, you definitely need to start thinking about those secondary and tertiary forms that subtly change the cross contour lines. And that's going to come up when you're shading and you're doing little hatch lines. Those hatch lines, typically artists choose to make those hatch lines follow the cross contour lines. So, but initially, it's much more important to be able to visualize those simple primary forms, the biggest simple masses, the way you're doing here. All right, Martin, that looks wonderful. Great line quality or line weight. The way you're making it thick on the outsides, even going lighter as that the arm, fin, whatever, is going away from us toward into the water. Same thing right in here. So yeah, great control of your line weight. And also just the cross contours, accurate. Not much to say. So great execution on that. This is good, very fun. Little blobs made into a character. Ginger. Yeah, I love it. So this one could have benefited from this additional axis if you had shown that. And then, I don't know if, yeah, like that. And then another one coming out from here. Although it feels like your center lines are a little too far to the left. Like, based on this curve here, I would have put the center dot like here. So let me redo that. So the center dot I would put right here. Like that. And so by showing this line, look at how much activity you're showing. You're basically doing this, showing the pinch on the inside and showing how much this is coming at us. On this side too, I would push it out more. Center right there. It's a very active line. I mean, we have that active line on the outside already. So you don't need to show it. It's just that that specific cross contour is in this case, I think it's very effective and important. Same thing on this one. It almost seems like there's a twist going on. I don't know why I feel like there's a twist, but from what you're showing me here, it seems like this is happening. To where we're seeing the bottom here, but then the bottom wraps around towards that side, and then we're actually seeing the back like this. So I think showing that center line on this one would have been beneficial as well. All right, Pedro, he says, I feel like I'm way too stiff while doing these and it all looks flat. Tomorrow I'll break down my subjects into forms more. I really struggle with it. Yeah, it does look like you're a little stiff with these. You're right. Good self-diagnosis there, but it's not bad. I think these are really good. I think they're totally passable as little exercises, but if you feel stiff while doing them, then you're probably right. So yeah, trust your instinct on that. But yeah, overall, when I was looking at this shark, I thought this great execution of these really tight curves, because this shark is just swimming almost right at us, right? And so the cross contour lines have to be really close together and then just get smaller and smaller as they come towards us. But yeah, you did that well. And look at that. It's just basically just a little slinky right towards us until it gets to the tip of that nose. Great reference that you found. And look at that frog. Does Unsplash put the logo on him? I've never seen that. Interesting. Okay. But yeah, this is a great one to imagine the forms around the head. You know, great finds. Another cool little frog. Look at this one. What? That looks like a little potato. Is it? It almost looks like it's fake. How's that real? What is that? Is that the same thing, just without dirt on it? It's almost like evolution was just like, hey, we're working on blobs today. Like, this is just perfect. What? Okay. Ooh, that's a good one, too. My God. You found some good ones. Let me see your execution of it. Hey, yeah. Awesome. I'm glad you simplified that shell of the top into these planes. Right? That's nice because that gives it that structure. It makes that shell feel hard. Because if you just made the whole thing into like a little blob, it would feel like this guy instead of this guy. So yeah, good decision to put these sharp plane changes on the shell. Totally feels like a hard shell. And then rounded forms. I would have made this whole front plane right here way more simple than what you have. It feels a little busy and I'm not quite sure what's happening. Because if I look at the actual photo, this whole front thing is a flat plane with these kind of corners with these triangles on the sides. When simplifying, I would have just shown that as a flat plane and then it wraps under as it goes down. Actually, what am I talking? Let me just show it to you. So I would have thought about, okay, you've got this plane. Yours does not have the symmetry. So actually, let's keep what you have here because I really like that plane. And then say, okay, well, this is the point. And then the other side, draw an angle to the other end. Find the other edge. There you go. So all you would have to do is just kind of extend this edge down to here. And then from there, figure out the shape of this bottom part. So now I have that front plane. And the cross contour of here is pretty flat all down the majority of it. And then as it comes down, I would wrap it underneath like that. Cool. So when I hide yours, you could see how we could feel this whole flat part in here a little bit better now. Although I just made it really busy, so let's get that out of there. Plus we fixed the symmetry in this whole area right here. Can't forget the eyes. Yay! Okay, thank you, Pedro. Let's look at a few more of these, and then we'll move on to ginger root characters. Ooh, I love the styling, the presentation of yours. You got a little texture of the paper. Got nice fluid lines, very gestural. Great cross contours. So like the head especially, that looks like a really clean, really well thought out form. And then, of course, all the little legs are just so skinny. It's really difficult to put those cross contours on there. You kind of have to zoom in, make your line a little thinner and really wrap them around. A lot of the ones you have on here just look like lines that I'm not seeing them wrapping around, but sometimes you are. Like I'm seeing a few right here that are actually wrapping around. But overall, I'm gonna just ignore all the cross contours on the legs because they're not as important as all these massive areas, right? The head, the body, the butt. Yeah, same thing with the ginger roots. They look really good. Delicious. Want to put that in my tea. Almost look like octopus tentacles though. It's interesting. I mean, there's so many submissions. You guys are doing really good job. It looks like Juice did a great job, and these, just the line quality could be better. I feel like you gotta approach these with just a little bit more confidence. Use your shoulder more, because I just see a little too much wobbliness in your construction lines. If you use your whole arm, even all of the underline stuff will look really good. But the overall effect is great. Like when I zoom out of these and I look at them condensed and I don't see the little wobbly in the lines, they look very nice. So that's good. Ricin, ooh, so much bulbous. Look at that. So much form. Good job. I'm glad I decided to do ginger because I think it seems like it's helping you guys really feel those forms. So nice. Happy. Ginger roots. Okay, it just looks like you're kind of confused at the spots where the contours are overlapping or changing. You just have to treat those as separate parts. Like if they completely overlap where there's no continuation of the form, or there's a really hard pinch, it kind of just suddenly stops and then you have a totally new form coming out of it. So yeah, I would just treat those as separate forms. And it seems like you did a pretty decent job at that. I don't think there's anything about what you did here that looks off, other than maybe this could feel rounder. And I think it could benefit from a rounder line because it is kind of going away from us in that area. But overall, these feel very three-dimensional. This guy looks real cool. This guy is ready for his portrait. Looks really nice. I love the modification. He's just chilling with his helmet. Looks like Patrick gave a little tip. Oh, interesting. Looks like Patrick is saying all the cross contours are leading to the same pinch area, which doesn't give a hierarchy of importance to what's happening. Yeah, that's a really good point, because if you look at his little diagram here, if everything's coming to the same point, this area doesn't show depth. It's like everything is in the same spot, so they don't feel like they're going back. Whereas here, each one of these has a different place where it's overlapping, and so you can kind of feel like which is in front of the other. So yeah, definitely great advice. So many submissions, you guys. I'm happy that so many of you are participating, but I'm also sad because I can't give you all a critique, because then this would be a never-ending video of me repeating the same thing, or the same like 5 things. Oh, look at these. These are so cute. They look like little candies. Very nice. Yeah, little ginger candies. That's what they look like. Beautiful. Oh, really nice. Those are cool. I like it. 2 thumbs up, Mickman Jesse. Oh my lord, these in it. What? No, you did it. What? You did the guy. I forgot what he's called, but basically a blob, right? Man. Crazy stuff under the water. But yeah, you did it. This guy, so we're looking almost straight down at him, but not completely, I don't think. Unless he's just got a face on the top. It's kind of hard to see actually because of the way it's lit, just straight down. It's really hard to imagine these forms. But if I were you, I would have rounded it out. I mean, it doesn't feel flat. I don't know why you curved your edges back and you create that T intersection again. I would have shown the roundness of that edge. Just feels like a big bloated pancake, or like a little water balloon or something, right? So yours doesn't have that effect. Yeah, I can't imagine these actually coming to a point. It just feels like it's rounded off on the edges. Oh God, where are you finding these? This just looks like something from Men in Black. Like a baby version of one of the aliens from Men in Black. What? What side of the internet are these from? What is happening? He looks like he's blind, poor guy. That's really sad. I feel like that's actually just like a pig with a birth defect or something. It's like he can't see or breathe. Okay. Moving on. Thanks for that, Mon Barker. Alan, nice fish. I was just scrolling through Instagram right before I recorded this, and I saw a Loish painting of this exact fish. That's crazy. Oh wait, let me see. Yeah, it's the newest post. Well, I guess now we know what reference Loish used for that. That's actually awesome. I like seeing the reference that artists use, because then you can kind of see what decisions they make. Gives a little bit of a deeper insight into the mind of the artist. So that's kind of nice. That's cool. But yeah, wow, what a coincidence. I literally was just looking at that right before I started recording. But yeah, your cross contour lines, very good. I think you gave too much roundness to the fins. I don't think that they should be that fat. Like fins should feel actually flat, like pieces of paper, or like ribbons that are flowy, but very flat. And the way you indicated the lines on these back fins is it looks like it's actually curving around, making it feel thick, like fluffy pancakes. So actually the opposite of what you should be doing. You should be adding the flat lines on there and the really bulbous, the way you are on the body, it looks very round. So that's great. Just the fins need to be flat, but beautifully handled on the body there, actually. It looks like it's coming right at us. I like it. I like that little sketch. All right, anyway, thank you guys so much. Great submissions, very fun. I'm gonna move on to the ginger root characters, but I'm gonna split it up into a separate video because this one kind of ran long. So keep those separate. So I'll see you in the next one.